Hello and welcome to another Tabletop Games Blog Saturday review.
The skyline cracked open in the bright flash. Buildings around us collapsed into dust. There was no way out. Sirens wailed. The air stank of ozone, and there was a huge, deep roar that shook the ground around us. Then came another roar, and another. Suddenly, we saw Mothra through the smoke. There was also a King Ghidorah looming over the skyline. Then Megalon burst from the rubble. Finally, we saw the King of Monsters. It was
Godzilla, Tokyo Clash, by Aaron Donog and Prospero Hall from Funko Games, with art by Jason Kang. The Japanese word kaiju means strange creature or monster, and is tightly linked to films from filmmaker Ishihiro Honda, with special effects by Eiji Tsuburaya. Godzilla is probably the most famous of these kaiju, and if you watched any of the films, you know to expect giant creatures smashing buildings and causing long trails of destruction. So when our neighbor introduced us to Godzilla Tokyo Clash, I was expecting an epic battle between towering monsters. I wasn't disappointed. Godzilla Tokyo Clash does feel like you're directing the latest motion picture in the franchise. Actually, it's more than that. You actually take on the role of one of the frightening kaiju. Of course, there's Godzilla, who gave the game its name, but you can also play as Mothra, King Ghidorah or Megalon. If you're a fan of the genre, you'll be very familiar with these creatures and know their strengths and weaknesses. However, even if you know nothing about them, you'll find it easy to play the game. Genre knowledge is not required, but a useful bonus. In Godzilla Tokyo Clash, each kaiju has its own unique capabilities, movement patterns, strengths, and weaknesses. Godzilla is strong but takes a while to warm up. Mothra can fly, which gives you tactical flexibility. King Ghidorah can attack in multiple directions at once. Megalon can launch surprise underground, subterranean blasts. Godzilla Tokyo Clash is a card-driven game, so each monster has its own unique deck. Players draw a hand of cards and choose whether to play or discard cards. Depending on your choices, you can move, launch attacks, or boost your power. The city of Tokyo is the battlefield, a modular board that is randomly set up to create variety with each game. The board is divided into hexes that represent different terrain that influences movement, line of sight, and tactical choices. For example, buildings are not just fixed obstacles. They are resources to fling opponents into or to smash for energy. With each turn, the environment changes, turning the once stable cityscape into an area of constant flux. To add to the chaos, event-driven hazards trigger at certain points during the game, which the monsters will have to try and prepare for to protect themselves. That not only means you have to rethink your choices, but it also conveys the feel of kaiju films, where the monsters constantly destroy the surroundings, creating new challenges for the attacking forces on the ground or for the other monsters they're fighting against. As a player, you have a good amount of control over the game. Depending on your actions, you can intentionally try to run the game timer down if you think you're in the lead. Alternatively, you can focus on improving your deck by collecting lots of energy to charge up your creature's special power and unlock more powerful cards. Other than the luck of the card shuffle, there's no other randomness in Godzilla Tokyo Clash. There are no dice to settle the outcome of battles. There are no random tokens that you pull from the bag. In theory, all the information is there in front of you. So once you've learned your deck, you should know what the optimal play should be. However, in the heat of the battle, it is hard to plan properly, and your preferred tactics have to change in response to what your enemy monsters are up to. Learning the rules for Godzilla Tokyo Clash isn't too bad. The rulebook can seem a bit confusing at first, but most things make sense as you play. It's more the housekeeping between players' turns that can take a little while to get used to. Also, things like throwing direction and event sequencing may trip up newcomers initially. Yet, it's all there in the rulebook. After a couple of games, everything should be clear and the game will flow nicely. One important thing to mention is that Godzilla Tokyo Clash is more fun with more players. I strongly recommend you play it with at least 3 of you. It is important that players can gang up on whatever monster is in the lead. Having more kaiju on the board also creates extra chaos that is so fitting for the theme of this game. Also, with more players, the storytelling that emerges from the chaos is wonderful. That's where fans of the genre will really find a lot of fun. Our neighbour was certainly quoting lines from films as our monsters engaged in battles. Godzilla Tokyo Clash clearly delivers cinematic monster mayhem in a card-driven package. It's really fun learning how best to play to your kaiju's strengths and how to exploit your enemy's weaknesses. The more time you invest in the game, the bigger your reward. Playing the game always creates a cinematic spectacle. Once you all have mastered the various monsters, you will create memorable moments with every game.
Thank you for listening to this Tabletop Games Blog Saturday Review podcast. Please check the description below for links mentioned in this episode, as well as to the written version of this article on the blog. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, give us some stars or leave a review. Please also tell your friends about me, and if you want to offer financial support, check out my Patreon and Ko-fi pages, links to which you'll find in the blog at tabletopgamesblog.com. So thank you again for listening, and I hope to see you again soon.
This podcast was made possible by the generous help of my supporters. Royal Patron Sean Newman, Magic Champion John Risley, Castle Guards David Miller and James Naylor, Dice Masters Alex Bardi, Paul Grogan and Robin Kay, and Shining Lights Jacob Davis, Gavin Jones, Sarah Reed and Richard Simpson.